everyone, we are live. Welcome to the Katie Halper Show. Very excited to be here and to have, sorry, just adjusting my camera, Jack Allison with me.
Hi there. Yeah, hi. Back once again. Good to see you, Katie. How are you?
Good. Really excited about tonight's show. Let me actually just do a little, make sure that I have my stuff set to the right. Up. Almost. Oops, I have a YouTube thing open.
I had that issue. I was getting the audio.
Okay, sorry about that. And then it wouldn't be the Katie Halper Show if I didn't forget to do something with my mic.
Oh, of course.
Right.
Tech
so
issues. It wouldn't be a web stream really without tech issues at the top of the streams. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Top of the stream. Web streams are kind of like TV shows, but you get to see like Anderson Cooper be like, "Oh, holy shit, let me fiddle with the mic."
Yeah. Right. If they freaked out. Yeah. Where's my Samson? Do I want disable audio processing? Do you have any idea what that is? That option
tough
is?
Because it's I think it's giving you a delay right now. So maybe the processing is making it delayed or something.
How is it now?
I couldn't really tell. You want to talk a little more there?
Sure, yeah. So my name is Katie Halper, and I know I'm live, and
that's better. That's better.
Okay,
that's better. Okay. Oh, we know we're live. Oh, I know. We know we're live. This is just the way it is with live streaming. As you open with stuff that shouldn't be live. It shouldn't be live.
Exactly. Yeah. Audio processing has to do with your CPU. Oh, of course.
Right.
I'm not making fun of you, but I have no idea what the same type of idiot that I am that would ask about that. Also, that doesn't really know about CPU stuff. So, anyway, really excited to have Jack here, and also to have joining us later tonight, Marianne Williamson. And it's just fortuitous that I actually wanted to have her on. I've had her on before. I did not watch the People's Convention, but we are having a speaker from the People's Convention, Marianne Williamson. And I had her on before, and then I actually wanted to have her on again. She had this tweet. I don't know if you saw it. Went kind of viral. It was about how the DNC was kind of like a Marriott commercial.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. After I think like night 2, she said, I think somebody was like, it's so inspiring. And she was like, how can you say that? It's like a 4-hour Marriott commercial.
Right. Yeah. It was, I think it was our dear friend, my life partner, that he doesn't know about it. Mark Ruffalo, who said something great about the convention, and we love him, and we that's like
Mark. He's doing his best out there, Yeah. He actually cares about fracking and all that.
Yes, he does.
Stuff.
He was he's on the
right. Yeah. We like him.
We like him.
He's just trying to fit in Hollywood.
Yeah.
There's a lot of social pressures.
I don't even think he's doing that. I think he's trying to
be positive. I think he wants to be positive. I think that's what he wants to do.
I think he's trying to be positive,
and
Yeah, and he
feel
thinks
good.
that. Yeah. It's funny. It's like the more, he's part of the group of people who really think that, and I don't want to say this in a way. I mean, Marianne, this is interesting because Marianne, 100%, she has said this, by the way, in the past on my show. She 100% is for Biden. Like, she does not like Biden,
right?
But she's 100% vote blue.
Mm-hmm.
And which is interesting because she's also very critical of the Dems, obviously. And, she doesn't even want, the last time I had her on, I was like asking her to repeat something she had told me and Matt Taibbi publicly. It wasn't, but on Useful Idiots, she said that Tom Perez had said to her, we lowered the bar as much as we could. Like, so gross. And so I was like, what, anything else you want to tell us? She was like, no, not now. Because honestly, not now. Like, the focus is just getting this guy out.
Trump out. Yeah.
Which I think is like, I guess
I understand that as a motivation.
My position? I think
there's a lot of people who have that motivation and are motivated solely by that. And I even understand it. I do. Yeah. And I even kind of agree with it. I think we have to get Trump out. My position is I agree with it, but I'm also like, I don't know what the fuck it's like to live in some of these swing states. You know what I mean? So it's still not really for me to say, who you should vote for or whatever. But yeah, I think my position is that I personally think Biden is going to lose because they're like doing a bad job at running the campaign. And, I don't think thinking Biden is going to lose equals, wanting Biden to lose. You know what I mean? Exactly. I definitely think that like it would be better if Trump lost. I'm worried that they're not doing a good enough job to get it done.
Yes. And I agree. And
I think a lot of people like they see leftists being like Biden's losing, and then they're like, it seems like leftists want Biden to lose. I'm like, no, I just think he is losing.
I know. And it's also funny because we saw this with Michael Moore, and he warned last time that Trump would win, and he was right. And then this time he says stuff and they freak out. Like he was on the Joanne Reed show, and they freaked out. And and you know what? He said something about, he was wrong about how many people I think would go to the indoor rally that Trump had.
Right.
But also, to be fair, a lot of people bought fake tickets. Like fake tickets, but bought tickets.
They were talking about how many tickets there were going to be and whatever. And I also thought that there was going to be a bigger turnout for that for that COVID rally. And, I think we can all be thankful that really it only took Herman Cain. It's really the only person that it took. I can't believe that. It's frankly unbelievable that the former pizza CEO guy ran for president as a vanity project and ended up dead at the Apprentice guy's COVID rally. It's just too many threads coming together to think about.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, also, what's funny is like if anyone else were in Trump's position, and it's impossible to think that way, it's counterfactual, and like because Trump is Trump.
Yeah.
But if someone else were president and did with COVID what Trump did and had the rally that Trump did, and Trump was like running against said person, he would totally call that person a murderer. He'd be like, he murdered that poor man. Herman
he murdered
Cain.
him. Yeah,
he murdered him. He has the blood of Herman Cain on his hands.
And frankly, the Democrats should be doing the same. Yeah. Like, honestly, like, I don't know why Biden is not out there being like, he killed Herman Cain. Is everyone not seeing that he killed Herman Cain?
Really, yeah.
Truly, like, even this thing with fucking, and it's truly horrendous stuff that happened this week. But even, all the reaction to this Kyle Rittenhouse, the kid who shot protesters in Kenosha. It's like, I don't even think Biden can really sort of like talk forcefully about how this kid was in the front row at Trump rallies, because they don't want to they want to win people that are actually sort of Kyle Rittenhouse supporters, frankly, the kind of person that is like a fearful suburban white,
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny because it's like there are people who are, there are people who are disaffected and could turn into violent people who we should be going after, but with policies that like are good.
Yeah.
I guess what I just said wasn't very clear.
How do you mean?
Like, I guess it's like part of the value of when like with the Bernie platform, right? Like, this whole fake narrative about how, you're going to sell women and people of color under the bus. By the way, Brian Frederick. Hi, Brian. Always great to see you. He writes, Biden supporters are already blaming Russia. For what? For BLM stuff? It's so ridiculous. Okay, let's see. Republicans, hold on one second. Thank you, Lumpia Logic. Thank you for your super sticker. You are seen. We see you. Republican Sparky says Republicans blocked Herman Cain in 2012. Blocked him how? I
guess
him?
I guess he could have been president.
Oh yeah. And then there's one other one. What Brian write? What's the policy taking reading money from people's comments who you think don't have good, who you don't want to read? Here, Adam
I don't think that there's any
BLM protests.
I don't think that there's any moral, you're not entered into some sort of contract. You're not entered into some sort of contract to read it out loud just because someone's paid. What they paid for is the big colorful box. You know what I mean? They paid for. I'm saying that they paid for the big colorful box, and it's a bonus if you read it on TV or screen.
Do you see? Let's see. I wish I could share it with you. But the only things are someone wrote that.
I'm in the chat. Yes, okay, I'm seeing it all.
Do you see the Ritter house?
Yes, I know. I shouldn't have brought up the kid Rittenhouse.
Should we address that?
Listen, I don't agree. Listen, I frankly don't agree, but it's very controversial what happened with the kid Kyle Rittenhouse. Like, I watched all the videos of him, and the second and third ones, I think you can make a sort of legalistic self-defense argument. I don't think you can for the first one. And I frankly, for me, I'm very disappointed at the sort of the Rittenhouse defense that I've seen crop up so much over the last couple of days. But also, it's going to this is going to be a flashpoint for the chat to even talk about.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I don't, honestly, to be honest, I avoided it. I didn't even look into the controversy.
It's all, there's a lot of controversy over. We're going to be hearing a lot in the coming weeks, not only on this case, but in a lot of cases about what self-defense means in this country. We're going to be talking a lot about what self-defense means. Yeah. Because there's other stuff that happened today. It's like some counter protester Trump guy in Portland, got shot after he, I guess, was like macing people. It's like truly, real deal. Crazy stuff is going on out there. Yeah. We have to talk about all of that stuff. And there's I don't even know how to talk about it and who it's appropriate, who should be talking about it. And then there is this kind of I don't know. Well, let's table that for a second. Let me just see. Everyone is trying to say, so Caucasian Collins says, everyone is trying to say that Biden is being overtaken by the left. I personally think that he's using them for votes. He is the establishment 100%. Oh, yeah. I wish he were being overtaken by the left. I love all the stuff that people say about him that is not true. The RNC creation of Joe Biden. I pray. Yes. I wish. It's so funny. The RNC is out there being like, Joe Biden wants to create, he wants to steal your wages to make Medicare for all, and he wants to defund every police department, and Biden is out there just being like, I want to give police more money. I want to fund police more. He's actually running to the right of Trump on police reform. Yeah, I know. And we saw something pretty brilliant, which Trump is really good at, which is where he runs from both the right and the left. He manages, because he's not an ideologue, he manages to go, he'll do it within the same speech. He'll go after someone from the right and the left. Yeah. And lo and behold, he goes after Biden for the crime bill, but also being too soft on crime, which totally makes sense. And that's what one of the great. that is. I think this election is looking very dire. I think I think that it does feel like the momentum is starting to sort of bend Trump, and this fomenting kind of law and order versus COVID being the election thing. I'm like, ugh, it's not good. It's very Nixonian or whatever. And I've seen that being used as a way to sort of chastise the protesters, and I don't like that either. I see the fucking Brian Schatz, the senator from Hawaii, was rioting is never justified, and these are political and these are politically insane. I'm like, what the fuck do you know about politically insane? You're also a white senator in Hawaii. You know what I mean? Yeah. So there's issues there even to begin with. I don't know. The election people get mad at me all the time because I think Biden is doing bad, and I'm like, I just think he's doing bad. You're not wishing him ill. No, I don't want to try to make him. Right. And it just kills me because, especially with Michael Moore, it's the guy. So people were mad at him because he overestimated how many people would go to the Trump rally. And again, he could have been right because if those tickets had sold out, right, because a lot of people bought them intentionally not to attend. They bought them out so that there wouldn't be more tickets left. And then people, and people are TikTok teens did that. There's all sorts of funny stuff about it. Yeah. But yes, a bunch of tickets were bought to embarrass the Trump campaign. And they were tweeting out how many they had and all this kind of shit. It was purposely to embarrass them. Right. So maybe more people would have shown up. Who cares? Who knows? But the point is, Michael Moore being wrong about that does not make him a pro-Trump person or make him wrong about everything. And why, I don't understand. This is the resistance brain rot. It's again, Trump, existential, unprecedented threat, Cheetah Mussolini, who we want to fight more wars. And also
who we will never take seriously as potentially electable. I mean, they didn't do it last time and he won. And now, again, they're conflating Donald Trump is a threat with I like Donald Trump, even though they're saying he's a threat, but it's in a slightly different way.
I think that there's this like supposition. It's like, you know, in like liberal circles, it almost feels like entertaining the idea of why someone would support Trump is like not worth doing because like they're just stupid for doing it and they're against their own interests or whatever. And it's like, that is so not the right, like, even if they are wrong and being fooled and everything like that, you still have to like come to them. Even if they're terrible, like
hate them, which that's not, you can have nothing but contempt. You still want them to vote for Trump. I mean, think, oh my God, sorry.
You want them to vote for your guy. Like, well, you still at least have to like come to them and like take them seriously that they exist. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like the response to like, you know, someone might vote for Trump, you know, I don't know. It just is like the idea that someone could do it is like so far beyond conception that they can't even like come up with what a profile of a Trump voter looks like to even try to appeal to them. Yeah. I don't know.
And it's head in the sand stuff, I think, honestly. Yes. I think it's denial. And, you know, it's like, it's weird. It's like, actually, I think sometimes when you love something too much, you can't be objective about it. And we see this with like the Dems. Like people who rah-rah, go team Democrat, identify with the Democrats, like sometimes don't even know what they should be doing to get out the vote in a way that like Sanders, who couldn't care less about that label, although as you point out, turns out he was.
He is now.
But, you know, he doesn't, that's not part of his shtick or his branding.
Right.
And he has way better instincts about things. And it's similar with Israel sometimes where it's like this hawkishness that's actually not in the right. It's like, or what people are like, rah, rah, USA, let's go invade Iraq. And it's like, actually, that's not good for anyone. I mean, if you're like Cheney, it's good. A contractor, it's good. But like most people, it wasn't good for.
It's not helpful for the average person in any way.
Yeah, right. And even if you're just like a nationalist and a jingoist, it's still not helpful. Like it didn't make the United States safer or better. Or So also, Brian Frederick said, "I loved your Alex Morse interview, Katie. Thank you."
I did too. I just watched it right before this.
Wasn't it amazing? Really like I don't mean from I'm saying he's amazing. It's
no, you were amazing. I agree. Okay. I agree with you.
Was I not amazing? I can't even remember who I interviewed, but I was amazing. No, Alex Morse. I put the link. Everyone should vote for him or turn out. You know, get out to vote for him. He's an amazing person. He's like such a mensch. He is such a mensch.
Well, and it's such a fucked up thing what they tried to do to him, but in the end, you know, it's like in the end, it is like a positive story now because, you know, as he was saying in your interview, like there's so much more national attention on the race now, and he ended up like getting fundraising and everything like that. And frankly, like the state Democrats, like look fucking evil and corrupt. Like, you know what I mean? It's like they didn't get away with it and they like hurt themselves so badly as a result. So, you know, in the end, it's a happy story.
If he wins,
I know.
Why we really have to get the vote out. And so again, I'm talking about Alex Morse. I put the link to my video in the chat, and I also put that video has links to other chats. I mean, sorry, that description in my YouTube has links to his stuff. I didn't stream the People's Convention. I should have. Honestly, part of the reason I didn't stream it is because I really should have. And I usually stream things that I'm making fun of. So I didn't think to, honestly, I should have done that with the People's Convention. Is it one night only? Does anyone know? I don't know. I dropped a ball on that. I should have anyway. Okay, comment. I don't know if they addressed Assange, and in fact, I need to have an Assange episode. Katie, I was torn between my love for Tulsi and my love for you. I was sad that Tulsi dropped out. It ruined the election for me, so you won out. Okay, great. I mean, Tulsi, why didn't they invite her to do anything?
At any convention, you mean?
Like at the DNC.
You know, it does feel like, you know, Tulsi endorsed Biden so early.
Yeah.
It's like Tulsi should have got something. You know what I mean? Tulsi should have been able to speak. It's true.
Yeah, like why did they have I mean Yang, Booker?
Yeah, but Yang like begged is the most shameful thing. Like he went on Twitter and was like, they haven't asked me. I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? That's actually
right, because she took Kamala down. I forgot about this. That's actually true.
That's why actually
she couldn't talk. I forgot. That must be it, right?
Yeah. That must.
It would have been too awkward to have her there,
right, in the same montage.
I mean,
shouldn't it be awkward to have Kamala and Biden together?
Kamala, that little girl was me. Yeah. Well, the great thing about that is that it was all a farce anyway, and her position on busing isn't actually that different. So I love that, like, she had those t-shirts ready made.
I know. I was gonna say, are there still people that are now supporting Biden that still have that little girl was me shirt? Like, how can you wear that as a Kamala Biden? So do you have to get rid of that shirt because that was an anti-Biden shirt?
Right.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, Katie, this week a lot of people in the chat were mentioning it. I just want to briefly talk about that. I was able to liberate the Horse Whisperer account on Twitter.
So tell us what happened.
So I got the actual trademark for Horse Whisperer, the United States patent for Horse Whisperer, because I bought the domain for it back in January. Took like 7 months, and I got the trademark. So then I filled out a request on Twitter saying that somebody else was using my trademark. And then I got an email being like, that account is like now changed. So I guess they emailed him to be like, you have to, like, your trademark, you're on someone's trademark. And so he changed his username, and now I am the Horse Whisperer.
Oh my God. What's his username?
It's now the Real Horse. I took the Horse Whisperer. It's my account now. And that's actually the account I'm going to be posting on more often. I have liberated the Horse Whisperer account using the power of trademark law in the United States.
Wow!
I am the registered trademark holder for the Horse Whisperer.
That's
if you follow it now, that is my account now.
So many people their heads are gonna explode when they see something like from his account that's like anti.
I'm trying right now. I'm really trying right now to get a lot more followers back. I'm like really trying to keep it in the voice of the Horse Whisperer.
That's so great. Why don't we should have someone read for us, like someone. You could do it because you would know, but I have to guess whether it's really you or Horse Whisperer.
I think I'm doing a good job. It is actually like appalling to me how easy it is for me to fall into this man's voice. It's like upsetting to me how easy it was to start writing tweets like this.
Yeah. Well, wow. What else? Military industrial complex didn't like Tulsi being a peacemonger, so that's why the establishment was active against her. Yeah, that's also true. Yeah.
This is true.
We could watch part of if anyone has any links to excerpts from the People's Convention, because I am going to we are going to have Marianne Williamson on, but I'm down to play part of it if people want, because people keep asking for it. We could comment on it.
Yeah, I didn't get to see it either, so I would like to watch some of it too if there were some good parts.
Anyone have any excerpts? And that's great, Jack, that you did that. That's really great.
I can't believe it worked. I can't believe that you're allowed to do that.
And what's the Real Horse? So
now he's the Real Horse. He's the Real Horse. Still spelled wrong, like HOA. But if you Google Horse Whisperer, HOARSE Whisperer, I'm the first. Like the old account is the result for all of it. Like he fucked up his SEO.
Oh my God.
So I have the that's my account now.
Oh my God. That is just amazing. I'm blocked. I'm still blocked by him.
By the Real Horse, you'll be blocked, but by Horse Whisperer, you won't be blocked anymore. Yeah. Now the new, now it's funny. Now he has Horse Whisperer blocked. He blocked all the accounts.
Oh my God, this is
because I was going in the replies and being like, "This is a fake account." Like, go follow my account.
Did we that Horse Whisperer? Like, did we? I forget. Did we tell Did we explain to people?
It's like basically this guy who was just an animal avatar account on Twitter who just posted really bad, nasty, fucked up, anti-progressive stuff. He was especially mean to like Breonna Joy Gray.
White adjacent bro fodder.
Yeah, he called her white adjacent. He sucks. And then later I found out, what this guy's identity was. And I found out that he was like a marketing guy for like Aetna and Exxon and all these like companies. He doesn't really do it anymore, but it's like, they were showing his tweets like he's just some nobody on like MSNBC. And, actually he does like work for like health insurance companies and Exxon and all this kind of stuff. And then, in the end, I ended up trademarking his Twitter name, and then I got the Twitter name.
That's amazing. Yeah, let's go. Let's take a look at this. Okay, so here is welcome to the Horse Whisperer.
This is the new Horse Whisperer account. Okay. Yeah, the new Horse Whisperer.
And he has it to Horse Whisperer, and it's has the trademark thing.
I put the registered trademark in because I am the registered trademark holder.
Can't use it without that.
Well, I mean, they made him move. I guess they were like, you have to change your username, and then I immediately got an email was like, this claim is over, and so then I went and got the account since like it wasn't being used anymore or whatever. And now I am the registered trademark holder, so. I put the registered trademark logo on there. You can only use the TM you're supposed to use when you're waiting for it to for it to go through. The R you use when you're actually a registered trademark holder.
Yeah. Got it.
So I'm trying to get the followers back. I said let's try to get me a blue wave. Resistance, send me a blue wave of follows.
So that's you. So, okay.
This is me. This is me. I'm writing in his voice, trying to get. This is like a deep level.
Jack. Okay,
this is me.
Jack.
All of the posts on this page are me.
And he lost 300,000 overnight.
So his account, he switched the username, so he kept all his followers. I've been saying I lost 300,000 followers because I want all his followers to follow me back.
Oh my God, this is so funny. The motherfucker is a fucking Cheeto.
Yeah, I'm just doing.
These are so funny. Civil War would be even worse than the last. Robert E. Lee, love him or hate him, was at least a statesman. How sad that Trump's disaster presidency makes me long for the stability of even someone like Robert E. Lee. Yeah, these are pretty like.
I'm trying to do them in the voice pretty good, and I'm retweeting like bad stuff a lot of the time, like bad posts from liberals.
Right. Wait, what about murder? What happened to murder?
He got his account like banned or something or suspended, so now he's on a new account too.
Oh, okay. So, well, I just followed him because
That's like a similar thing going on. Right. I said about Beto endorsing Kennedy. Winners endorse winners.
Oh my God, so great.
I'm having a good Sunday. Yeah, I'm really trying to write in his voice. I really am trying to write in his voice. Not sure who needs to hear this, but 4 more years of president make the golf course great again, and we will, and I cannot emphasize this enough, not have a democracy. If you're not supporting Biden because he won't give everyone a free unicorn, maybe it's time to grow up.
That's really good. And now, how do I find his? Sorry,
he probably still has you blocked. So if you go to the Real Horse,
okay. So
you'd have to open it. Yeah, it's the Real HOARSE.
Okay, hold on. So let me do it an incognito window, right? And that would be Twitter. I'm just getting a good clip to play, by the way.
Yeah, I'm ready to look at anything.
Let's see. Okay. Yeah. Well, let's see. We'll do that. Did anyone put a clip in there? Let's see. Anyone put in a clip? Great to see Chris Hedges speak. Oh, Brad sent me a clip. Or Brad, you can also send it in the. Thank you, Brad, for moderating. You can also put a post in.
Always have to salute the mods. You have to always salute the mods.
Yes, thank you. Let's see. It's annoying. I'm using my mom's computer because mine broke. I have to fix it. And I had it set up so that my text would go to my laptop. But this is my mom's computer, so I don't have that. So someone texted me. Oh, Jimmy Dore versus Fire. Damn. No clips? Someone, hold on. Pick some. All right. Well, I need the link. Let me see. Let me look. People's Forum. Sorry, that's not what it's called. People's Campaign? People's Convention?
Yeah, the people.
I think they're having another
Party
one.
Convention.
Let's see. The People's Convention, yeah. Let's see. Let's see. It was 5 hours. What part should we watch? I want to have Gravel on. Oh, Nick Brana. We could watch him. I heard he was great. Who's that? Looks like a great lineup. Oh, Jesse Ventura. Okay, let's just go through it. We can just stream through it. Let's see.
Oh, wow. Jesse Ventura. Wow.
Yeah, and then again, we will have Marianne on.
Bojack Productions is trying to get me in trouble and get me talking about Clear Ice. I won't do it.
Oh, yeah, do it. Now that I believe you, that's not a weird Nazi thing.
There's nothing left to say about it other than, it's you get a clear harvest by doing directional freezing.
Right. All right, let's see.
$600 billion of wealth.
I think this guy's kind of behind, like this is his thing, Nick Brana. So let's watch a little bit.
Because Wall Street has two major parties.
Can you guys hear it?
I can.
Okay.
And working people.
Can people hear it? Well, Marianne is coming.
Totally bought by corporate America. He's not working for the people.
The two candidates don't meet the criteria of integrity.
We need a people's party.
In terms of the lobbyists who are hired primarily by corporations for their own interests.
They're up for sale. They tied to big money.
These corporate Democrats operate just like Republicans. Nothing's going to change. Who told us that? Joe Biden himself. It's the most honest thing he's ever said.
In these times of crisis, more than ever before, we need honest leadership. We need a party for the people. A party free of corporate money and influence. A party that works for us. Welcome to the People's Convention 2020. Here's your host,
I'm trying to make
Nick
it
Brana.
full screen. Why is it not?
Weird.
Sisters and brothers,
I'm putting
young
on,
and
I
old,
pressed the
black, brown,
there we go.
Closed captions
poor
on?
and middle class.
Oh, wonderful.
Every
What the
corner
hell?
of the country.
What the hell?
Welcome to the People's Convention. My name is Nick Brana. I am the founder
Okay, I'm
and
trying to put on
national
closed
coordinator with
captions.
the Movement for a People's Party.
Is that
and
on?
your
Okay.
host.
Okay, I think we got him.
Today.
Now I do
We
full
announced
screen,
the
right?
People's
Yeah,
Convention
just hit full screen.
3 weeks ago. And today we are being joined by some of the greatest voices for justice in our country, including Bernie 2020 co-chair, Senator Nina Turner, Harvard professor, Dr. Cornel West, 2 former Democratic presidential candidates, Marianne Williamson and Mike Gravel, Senator Mike Gravel, the former governor of Minnesota, Jesse Ventura, actor and humanitarian, Danny Glover, Pulitzer Prize winner, Chris Hedges, comedian and political commentator Jimmy Dore, and leading progressive activist Ryan Knight, a labor leader with the American Postal Workers Union, and Amazon walkout organizer Chris Smalls. Bernie national delegates and former progressive congressional candidates endorsed by Brand New Congress and DSA are also joining us today. Renowned comedians, leading independent media voices, the poet, the former volunteer national high school director with Bernie 2020, leading Indigenous rights and anti-war activists, nonprofit founders, a climate scientist, and leaders in the Latino and veteran communities, as well as our Revolution Los Angeles, will all be with us today. And it is my great honor to say that as of last night, the Movement for a People's Party has crossed 100,000 members.
Wow.
10,000 of whom joined just in the last week. And why is this? It's because we face as a society a overwhelming amount of crises that are converging, a health crisis with a pandemic that has claimed more than 180,000 lives and has at the same time seen millions of people lose their employer-based health coverage at the same time that they need it the most. A crisis, a country that is facing a reckoning with systemic racism and police brutality after the murder of George Floyd. A country in which is facing a housing crisis that is worse than anything that has been seen since the Great Depression, an economic crisis worse than that is unparalleled except for the Great Depression. So the level of crises that we face in this country indicate that we have two political parties that can no longer govern this country. They cannot provide basic needs. There's a term in political science for that. It's a failed state. Our country, the richest country in the world, is seeing right now billionaires adding more than $600 billion of wealth to their fortunes, while bread lines expand for miles, while child hunger has climbed to record levels. In this country, the richest country in the history of the world. That's what has brought us together today, to examine the state of the nation in this country and to ask ourselves, are we being served by our government? It exists for us. Are we being served? And if the answer is no, what are we to do about it? At the conclusion of the program today, we will be holding a historic vote to form a major new political party.
Okay, so Marianne can tell us about this.
Okay, cool.
Party free of corporate money and influence. The vote will be open to everyone. It will be cast through the People's Party app, which you can download on peoplesconvention.org. So please get the app now, prepare yourself, prepare to cast the vote. We will cast it at the end of the program. I would also like to say that today you're going to be hearing from various different perspectives on what to do about 2020.
That's interesting, yeah. Because Marianne is
who to vote for in this election.
Interesting.
There are many different views and voices.
I like that too, actually.
We all agree.
I like that there's different, like there's different.
Is that the status quo is not working?
There's more than one.
We need a major new party
choice. I guess you can make. That's allowed.
What has brought us together, and that is what I look forward to discussing today. First, we must understand, though, the challenges that we face.
Okay, how do we understand that? Taking a moment.
Okay.
All right. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna move this
in
to some
times of crisis.
All right, we got let's go to Marianne for a little bit. How about that?
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah.
Thanks, Brad. Brad, not just a great mod, but
in the bottom half of society.
Midwife. I don't know what the word is.
A producer?
Yeah, sure. Well, he's is Kelly here? Kelly's also a producer. Kelly's a producer, but he is
an eviction crisis.
Okay, I'm trying to fast forward. He gave me some good time code.
We need you guys to take action.
No.
Oh, Lee. Hey, Lee.
Oh, there we go.
Otherwise, where are the resistance?
Let's go to. We're gonna. Isaiah. I had him on the show. He's great. He looks good with glasses. He looks great with glasses.
Doesn't care if you're a Democrat or Republican.
Damn. Oh, Jesse.
Oh yeah, Jesse looking good.
We'll get back to Jesse, but first let's just watch some Marianne because we're gonna be hearing from her, so it's good.
Lead
this will
Thank
work
you, Brad, for
without
that.
a universal.
Okay.
It is a character
that we all saw from the beginning.
Should I play it at like 1.25 speed?
That is our vision.
Is that weird?
And it is a vision that has
doesn't
never
bother
been
me, but I know
more
some
real
people, you
and
know,
more necessary
don't like 2x
than it is today.
I'm just at 1.25.
Thank you.
Let's get crazy.
I
Let's
look
go to
forward
1.5.
I mean, I've watched stuff in 3x. You know, I watch stuff fast sometimes.
For this
I would
guy,
like
you
to
definitely
remind
need
everyone
it.
that
You need it like
the vote
75 times.
The vote to build a major new party in the United States. So please head to
but I
peoplesconvention.org, download the app if you haven't already, and cast your vote. This
There
is
we
a
go.
occasion. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Marianne Williamson. She's an author.
See, there were even pauses there at 2x.
I know.
There were some pregnant pauses there at 2x.
Big time pregnant pauses, yeah.
Marianne, it's wonderful to have you with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's just wonderful to be here.
Wow.
I have to say that what you've done here, Nick and Ryan, is so moving to me. It's really an honor to be in the presence of this much truth telling. There has been more truth
This is cool because then when we speak to her, which we're speaking to soon, she's coming on soon, it'll be at normal pace.
Yeah. We'll be so prepared, you know.
Yeah.
This is like strength training.
Exactly.
We all know things are going on and they're not being discussed. And that should be the purpose of political parties. They should be containers for truth telling as certain people see it. And this convention
I agree.
has opened up a conversation that I think is so important, and I'm so honored that you're allowing me to be part of the conversation here today. It's like a kaleidoscope. Everybody has given their own little piece of it, and everybody has said things that to me contribute to a higher level of truth and understanding in our country. I'd like to begin by articulating a context that for me is very helpful in understanding where we are today. Just like when you're a child and even when you're an adult, but you go to therapy, and in therapy they ask you about your childhood, because the more you understand where you came from, the more you understand your parents' experience, the more you understand where you came from, the more you can understand where you are now, and the more empowered you can feel about going forward because you know where you've been.
Yeah.
So I think that taking a good look at the founding of our country, where we started, where we come to, gives us tremendous power and understanding where we need to go now. In 1776, 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence declared in founding documents in a way that had never been done in the world some foundational principles that were revolutionary. They were not only revolutionary politically, they were revolutionary morally, they were revolutionary spiritually. That all men are created equal, and that all men have the God-given right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That all men should have an opportunity
Interesting.
to
Sure.
and actualize their own God-given potential. And that's where it started, but that's also
What's
where
in the background? I'll have to ask her about it.
People think it's too fast. See, I knew this people would think it was too fast.
Okay, well, we're going to speak to her in real time.
Right.
The American mind that is bipolar, that on one level stands for the most aspirational and enlightened principles that have ever formed the founding of a country, and at the same time, from the very beginning, it has never not been true. And this struggle is encapsulated in our politics today as much as it has ever been at any time, even at the beginning. Because even though there have been people who were willing to sacrifice their lives,
well, see, that's slow now.
That's 1.5.
I'm just joking.
They're with us then, and they're with us now. That we're willing to transgress, even in the most violent and wicked ways, against the principles on which we purport to stand. And every generation in American history, ours no less than any other, has lived out that struggle. Now, the good news is, over time, we tend to self-correct. Americans responded to slavery with abolition, and Americans responded to the institutional suppression of women with the women's suffragette movement. We responded to segregation with the civil rights movement. So over time, as desperately dark and painful and it's filled with human suffering as some of the aspects of American history have been, there have been people in every generation that have
people want 0.5 now.
The forces that were transgressing against our principles.
All right, you know what? And someone told me
it is simply our turn. Now, I was a child, but I was old enough to remember Bobby Kennedy taking a stand against the Vietnam War.
Of course, we're going to cut off Marianne for Marianne. She's not like waiting in the room, guys. That's so funny. Imagine Marianne's waiting to come on. I'm like, wait, just hold on.
Aspirational principles of America. They killed them. And
thank you, Munted Gronk. Katie killing it with the viewers.
1968, they died. In 1980,
1290.
Reagan was elected president, and with that came Reaganomics, or trickle-down economics. Now, hear me on this. When you have the wicked transgression against the principles on which we stand encapsulated within an institution, then it is as though that institution is like an operable tumor. You have slavery, we know what we need to do, abolish slavery. You have the suppression of women, we know what we need to do, give women the right to vote. You have segregation and all of the domestic terrorism against Black people that followed for 100 years after the Civil War. We knew what we had to do, pass civil rights legislation and the Voting Rights Act. But what has happened now is something even more insidious, because it's not one institution, it's an economic mindset. It's not an operable cancer. It's more like a cancer that has metastasized and has wrapped itself around healthy organs. With what happened in trickle-down economics, led by the guys from University of Chicago, although interestingly enough, the main articulator of trickle-down economics, a man named Milton Friedman, himself said, but none of this will work without a universal basic income. Well, people who promulgated trickle-down economics left that
although that's kind of like an argument against UBI.
Responsibility to people or to planet. Because you see, before
without other things, I would say.
You see, before then, it's not like America was ever all good, but I remember a time when the social consensus was that at least we should try. With trickle-down economics, the idea was that all the responsibility of the corporation would be the short-term profits for the stockholders.
We're playing Marianne quickly because
the earth itself.
We gotta talk to her.
We're talking to her, and then we can, we
gotta hear it all.
We gotta hear it all, yeah.
After 40 years, we know what happened.
We can also watch some other people are really upset I didn't
it created such a massive
I wasn't more on top of the People's Convention.
And maybe we watch watch some Jesse Ventura or something?
Sure, yeah. Let's do that.
You know, we could do a normal speed. He
just spoke. I don't know why I'm engaging. Read any of. All right, whatever. What do you mean I didn't do my homework? This happened right before. I couldn't have watched it because I was getting ready for the show. You know, I don't need to admit that I ever made mistakes. I don't need to say you're right. I should have watched the People's Convention. I had stuff to do today. I had people I had to see. I had it planned for a while.
Abolition did not emerge from a major party. It emerged from the abolitionist party. Women's suffrage did not emerge from a major political party. It emerged from the women's party. Social security did not emerge from a major
people
party.
are so
It
rude.
emerged from the socialist party.
I don't know why.
Look, today we're all here.
Let's see. Okay, what are we looking at?
Next is
you can't read the chat all the time.
Yeah, I know. I really shouldn't. Where's Jesse? We got Cornell. Cornell's great. Let's watch some Cornell.
Jesse was okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Where's Jesse? Jesse Ventura.
We're in the middle. Oh, Jimmy Dore.
Yeah. I want. There. Here we go. I love his voice.
Unconditional basic income floor, where every already voting. Gerrymandering.
Public office at this time.
We need to save, restore, and expand our democracy. We never should have allowed a two-party system.
Who's that?
Duopoly
See, they should have the person on the whole time. The name, I mean.
The lower third.
Yeah. Maine was the first to break free by adopting ranked choice voting.
People's Convention. Let me run your tech next time.
Spoiler effect and move from plurality to majority voting. Gerrymandering must end too. Politicians must be prohibited from choosing their voters. At the very least, we need third-party fair redistricting, but even better, multi-member districts utilizing proportional representation. We also need publicly financed elections where every American is allotted an amount of funding to donate to political campaigns so that lobbyists are overpowered by the power of the people. We need so much more, but I consider these the most important that will make everything else possible, no matter how impossible it all feels right now. 2020 has been a year none of us will ever forget, but it also changed the world, and a changed world means an opportunity to remake it into something new, something that actually works for all of us, something that puts our humanity first. A better world is possible, but it's up to us to make it happen. It's up to us to build it.
Okay, hold on. Link, if you want me, it's a good point, but you know, honey attracts more, whatever you attract more.
Yeah, just
say that. Like I will. Okay, yeah, I didn't realize that, and that's a good point. That it makes it hard to read for people who have cognitive disability. So I'll play it at normal speed. But you also don't have to be rude and say I'm not as rude as doing your homework, your research at hyperspeed. This isn't research. I'm having Marianne come on. People mention the People's Convention. So I'll play it at normal speed, but also be a decent person.
You know what? These folks in the chat, they'll give you a hard time all the time. All day, every day. All I do is catch shit from the chat.
Also marched for the equal. And the first thing that I want to get clear is this is not a campaign.
He's not running.
I am not running for any public office.
It's working for me.
Time. But I do want to make a political statement in the light of what we live under today and a brief history. First of all, I'm 69 years old now. I'm a graduate of Minneapolis Roosevelt High School. And if you recall the recent events with Mr. Floyd and his death in Minneapolis, that happened right in my neighborhood, South Minneapolis, between Roosevelt and South High School, where I grew up. I'm very familiar with it. And so that's a little bit of history of me. I joined the Navy right out of high school. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I came home. The first thing I did, I was rebellious, and I walked with the Stop the Draft movement. I wanted the draft ended because the draft was a horrible thing that was totally discriminating, and the rich kids get out like Donald Trump, and the poor kids have to go. And so, and most of the poor kids were kids of color would have to go to the war. And so I marched against the draft. We were successful in eliminating it. I've also marched for the Equal Rights Amendment for women. And been involved lately, and I marched multiple times to change the name of the Washington football team. So I've always been a bit of a radical in a way, rebel, whatever you want to call me. Dennis Kucinich, the great congressman from Ohio, after dinner one night, called me the greatest free spirit he had ever met. And that was one of the greatest compliments I could ever get from someone like Dennis, too, especially. But my history is I've always been third party. I mean, I voted for John Anderson way back in the Ronald Reagan era. I have voted third party politics constantly because I've seen the destruction, and I understand. John Adams, one of our forefathers of the country, warned us, I believe it was Adams, when he said when political parties take over the government, when they become so powerful, that will be the end of the United States as we know it. Well, people, don't you think we're kind of there right now? The two political parties have really taken over. And I like to refer to them as really the one political party.
Now, if I play...
Because
thank
when
you,
I was governor, I brought the third party.
Mixwire, very nice.
Get them under one roof. And unfortunately, it was like cats.
Oh, is a roof sayer?
Roof, yeah.
I say roof.
Yeah, me too. Midwesterners say roof. I will try to get Jesse on Useful Idiots.
All the third parties.
Too slow. He is someone who probably should be played. Thanks for the drink money. Let me see. So are people saying that you can't? The thingies won't play if you
parties today.
The subtitle won't play. Or hold on.
It doesn't
see that.
It doesn't look like they're keeping up or something.
Protect the political party. The party's
power. Oh yeah, it's okay.
They're not necessarily doing what's best for the people of America.
All right,
that's number one.
This is democracy. I have to be responsive to different people's needs. So I'm alternating.
I can't endorse any speed at this point.
Yeah.
At this point, I think it's certain speeds might even be problematic, and I'm not gonna.
Yeah, for everyone. It's not whether they're problematic; it's for whom they're problematic. You know what I'm saying?
Something else could sneak in there. We very well could be fifth for all that. I don't know everything. But
I think just do them at do all the speeds to make everybody happy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like going back to the 60s. And yes, it is in a way. And I lived through the 60s. I lived through.
This is kind of a good drinking game idea.
I was a young 13
year old.
President John F. Kennedy was assassinated.
Marianne interview drinking game when she says dark forces and references MLK or Bobby Kennedy. Although to be fair, referencing Bobby Kennedy and MLK is happens a lot.
Pretty typical, yeah.
Yeah.
Is the fact that they're forcing me to relive.
Pretty typical.
They're forcing me to relive times that I remember in my life today.
They're forcing him to they're re-traumatizing Jesse.
It wasn't the 60s. I think to get to where we're at today, you have to go back another 100 years. You got to go back to the Civil War.
Yeah, Jesse is better sped up. It really is situational.
It is situational.
It really is situational.
Confederacy is like the Union soldiers. And if that happens, it will be a disaster, a complete disaster. Now, why do we need to elect a third party president?
Split screens with different speeds.
No matter if you elect Trump or Biden.
You know what? I got to say something about Jimmy Dore. And Jimmy and I had a fight the other day, and it wasn't even a fight. It was very, very awkward, I would say. And I'm saying this as after having spoken to him, and I'm going to do his show again, or he's going to do my show again. We're going to talk about it on the show, so you can stand by for that. But I got to say, I really don't think Jimmy Dore is a grifter. Like, I think there's a lot of things that you can say about Jimmy Dore. You can agree with you. Someone could say he was a dick to me. Whatever. Like,
their budget didn't work. I had left office.
He is not a grifter. He criticizes Trump. He doesn't do things for the clicks or the traffic. He really doesn't. Like, he's genuine. He believes what he believes.
Right.
And I just don't get why people have to insist that someone they disagree with is a grifter.
It's like a new kind of pop term, grifter. Yeah. And part of the funny thing about everybody saying grifter all the time is how nobody is making any money at all. Like everybody is like everyone's like, this person's a grifter, that person's a grifter. I'm like, best of luck to them. No one is making any money. No one's making any money.
I don't think it's the government's business.
I mean,
business in the war on drugs.
It's again, I don't understand. Hold on. So someone says you're a grifter if you're making money for Trump supporters. If Jimmy Dore is making money from Trump supporters, great. That's money they're not going to give to Donald Trump. Like, why is that bad? But I actually don't think that. I think he's if he reaches Trump supporters, that's great.
Kind of like pulling the plug in the bathtub. It keeps wanting to suck down. But anyway, I still
you know what I'm saying? Anyway,
my country, and I believe that we can be a
I don't know. I don't know what went on with you and Jimmy Dore, but I think that Jimmy Dore is like, I do agree with you that I think he's genuine, and sometimes he gets a little worked up. I think people call him a grifter because he like gets high energy on the show or something.
I don't.
When we return, we're now going to go on a 10-minute intermission.
See, grifter. Everyone's saying grifter. Just like why? Tell us why he's a grifter.
Tim Black. Ryan Knight,
Rachel Maddow is the grifter and making a lot of money.
Right.
Grifting. I think grifting does have to involve money.
No, I think that is what it needs to. What it includes. Yeah. I had Tim Black on the show. I want to find Chris Hedges or there's Cornell. But I'm curious about
tonight of people who have different views on how to move this nation forward. But what we do agree on, even if folks don't necessarily agree on what should happen in 2020, what we do agree on is that we are in a fight for our lives and for future generations, and that we stand up for what is just, for what is right, and for what is good. See, well, nobody scripted here tonight. Nobody got a memo. Nobody was whispered in the ear. Nobody was told what to say, what to do, and what to think. So we are a representation of what America is. You know what? I just threw out my whole speech because every single speaker, baby, when you're giving the benediction, you just got to go and give a benediction. That's what this time is. Just go and give the benediction. Everybody did that.
She's
Marianne Williamson. Let me start naming names because everybody did that. You know what came to mind for me, sisters and brothers? And I wasn't going to read this poem, but as I was listening to folks, two people came to mind. One was Marvin Gaye, What's Going On?
Oh my gosh, she's
and
so
then the other one was a poem that Langston Hughes wrote, and I believe he wrote it in 1938, and he was talking about the pain of Jim Crow and what was happening in this nation, and it's titled Kids Who Die. And I just want you just wrap your mind around it just for a moment. Can we just take a moment? Because it is as if Brother Langston Hughes is talking about this very moment. See, I'm full right now. This is Sunday, and I am feeling all kinds of spiritual waves right now. Kids who die.
Isaiah, I love
this
him.
This is for the kids.
He's so great.
Black and white, for kids will die, certainly.
This is Langston Hughes.
And the rich will live on a while, as always, eating blood and gold, letting kids die. Kids will die in the swamps of Mississippi, organizing sharecroppers.
I'm going to play
Kids
this at
will die
normal
in the
speed.
streets of Chicago, organizing workers. Kids will die in the orange groves of California, telling others to get together. Whites and Filipinos, Negroes and...
Sorry, I just want to play this at normal speed because this is poetry.
Mexicans, all kinds of kids will die who don't believe in lies and bribes and contentment and a lousy peace.
She's so great.
Hello, somebody. See, this poem encapsulates this very moment. Brother Langston Hughes is talking about this very moment. I hope you caught what he said. He said, telling others to get together, whites and Filipinos, Negroes and Mexicans, all kinds of kids will die who don't believe in lies and bribes and contentment and a lousy peace. That is what the movement for a People's Party is all about. We don't believe in the lies and the bribes and the contentment and a lousy peace. How can we have peace in moments like this, when over 90 million of our sisters and brothers are either uninsured or underinsured? How can we have a peace when you got a Congress that goes on recess while millions of people are facing eviction from their homes?
Right.
How can we have peace when on the streets of America right now, Black lives have been lifted and reaching out, calling out the racism and the white supremacy and the bigotry of a system that was created for Black lives to languish? How can we have peace?
So I'm going to leave us there because, as I'm sure everyone is really going to be excited about, because I know because people have already said this, if as long as I get the thumbs up from our guest, we will bring our guest in. And without any further ado, as promised, here is fresh from the People's Convention presses, Marianne Williamson. Hi.
Hey, how are you doing, guys?
Good, you?
Good to see you.
Thank you so much for joining again. And this is Jack Allison.
Hi. Good to see you, Marianne. Nice to meet you. Yeah.
And always great to be with you, Katie.
Thank you. How are you? You people were saying that you were actually watching part of your speech. What was the People's Convention like?
I thought it was wonderful, actually. There was more truth-telling on that Zoom convention than in either major convention. Mm-hmm. Things that everybody's talking about that weren't talked about at those conventions. And I thought it was really quite profound. I was very impressed and touched by it. It was a lot of very sincere sharing about very real things. I don't think any of us here would necessarily agree with every little thing that was said by everyone. That's democracy. But I think Nick Brana and Ryan Knight should be very, very proud of themselves. You know, I use the image of an alcoholic family where kids are feeling something's not right, mommy and daddy, they don't really say what's going on here. And that's how the whole country is. Like the political parties aren't really speaking to what is most deeply true for people. And so much agitation emerges from that. And that's what this convention did. They talked about what's deeply true. And I'm a big fan of those guys and what they did. And I was honored to be part of it.
That's great. And yeah, I thought it was good actually that there were people who are, it seems like there are people who are saying vote Biden like you are. There are people who are saying don't vote for either one. I think it's nice to see those two groups not just like shout past each other.
Yeah, it really wasn't. It wasn't really about whether or not you were voting for Biden. Some people expressed their preference one way or the other, and some people didn't. But that wasn't a major theme. The major theme, in fact, I thought they treated it with maybe more kid gloves than it needed, which was everybody vote your conscience, Right.
Right. No, but I guess I was just glad because honestly, there's so much shaming by both sides. So I'm glad that there could be a place where people who are like openly are known for their positions could all be, despite having different ones.
Although sometimes somebody's just expressing their opinion and then somebody else says you're shaming. Well, if I say something and you feel ashamed, that doesn't mean I shamed you. So
no, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. I was saying, it's like noticing that Biden is doing bad doesn't mean that I wish he's doing bad. You know what I mean? Like noticing that the DNC is bad.
Right. Yes. Yes. I mean, that's a real, and you, Marianne, we were talking earlier about your tweet going viral because it spoke to something clearly. You pointed out that the DNC felt like a 4-hour Marriott commercial, I believe.
Binge watching a Marriott commercial.
Yeah, binge watching, right? Exactly. And it just like beyond like forget your position. I mean, the idea that being critical of the Dems, or the idea that taking Trump seriously as a threat is somehow pro-Trump when it couldn't be any further from the truth. It's literally required to take him seriously as a threat.
Absolutely. I think somebody in the Biden campaign is in serious denial if they think that the Republican convention did not crush us. Yeah. I want Biden to win very, very much, not because I think he's going to solve our problems, but because I think he's going to be a pause in the action. I think that people need to read up on Germany in the 1930s and 40s. And what we have now, as horrible as it is, this is Trump holding back. You give him another term, there will be nothing holding him back. And so I think for me, it's imperative that we break that trajectory. And I don't think it's going well. So what I was talking about today is not meant negatively, it's meant positively. I think that somebody needs to tell the Biden campaign how sophomoric their tweets are.
Right.
Fire your copywriter, fire your strategist. One thing about the Republican convention, which I thought was evil genius, they played very genuine, heartfelt notes wrapped up with these horrible lies. But they did touch. It's like I said, it's one of the evil genius. And when I was running, I said often, in fact, I think every campaign stop I did, was that there are situations in life, and this is one of them, where the safe choice is the most dangerous way you could possibly go. That Trump is not just a politician; he's a phenomenon, and you have to vibrate at the same energetic level. And this kind of politics, this kind of democratic politics, 1990s, is like, what are you guys thinking? The only way to defeat outrageous lies is you better start telling them some outrageous truth. And this playing safe thing, and one of the things about the Republican convention that was extraordinary to me and extraordinarily absent in the Democrats is they talked policy. Can you believe it was lies?
Well, yeah, no.
The copies were very serious. There was no policy. And for me, it was interesting because, I wrote a book called Healing the Soul of America. So they've taken all this healing the soul of America and love, but they're like a caricature that was made of who I was, but I never was. Policy. You can't just talk about healing the soul of America.
Right.
Their policy too.
Right. The other thing I thought was missing at the Democratic convention that just is really amazing to me is that the Republicans prosecuted a case against Biden. Nobody prosecuted a case. Here we've got Kamala Harris, who is a prosecutor. We've seen how she can do it in those congressional hearings.
Yeah.
Right.
Someone prosecute a case against this man. Just to say this is about compassion. I mean, I'm not that. You know, that. So
really
this is constructive, but they missed the chance with the convention. They need to start now. They need. How is it possible that the Lincoln Project has better ads than the Biden campaign does? Make them real, and then get them all over social media. Or God help them.
I really feel the same way. I'm like, I don't want to say that Biden's winning, or is losing, but that is kind of what I unfortunately feel like I'm witnessing here.
Energy, that Republican convention.
It was, I mean, honestly, it was incredible. It was incredible. And it's so funny how, as you pointed out, they didn't bring up, like, I didn't even realize this. Amy Goodman mentioned this on Democracy Now! That, and apologies if it was very covered, but I guess the RNC has no policy plank this year. They're not changing it. They didn't change it.
That almost is like brilliant to me. It's so funny. They have had the presidency and they're like, our platform is the same. It's actually like, it's so brazen. I can't even believe it.
So great.
Listening to the convention, the way they talked, they had all these policies.
Right.
And he had all these policies going. The one that I love is after he has worked so hard to get rid of Obamacare, how he talks about how he's the great protector of insurance for pre-existing conditions.
Well, yeah, I mean, but exactly. They don't talk. They say that they're not changing the platform, but they talk about the policy because they had policy last time and they have policy now and they lie about it. But it's also, some of it is just actually, part of it is when it's true. That's part of the scary part, is when it's the true stuff.
That's right. They have just enough truth.
Yeah. I mean, but also the guy is a genius. I'm sorry. I know that he's obviously a xenophobe and totally anti-immigrant. When he naturalized 5 citizens in a convention, that was like television genius.
Well, this guy's a television producer genius. That's really the truth. Yeah.
Also, it's magic tricks. It's sleight of hand. Show one Black woman whose life you've helped.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
And then everybody's going to forget what he does to actually Black people in America.
Right.
Of course. Like total tokenizing. Yeah. I mean, ridiculous, but it was kind of amazing to watch that. I was like, what? That is a great idea.
And also all that kind of stuff, breaks the rules of norms and traditions. And you see all the liberals being like, that's not allowed. And you're like, well, it happened. So I guess it was allowed.
Right.
I guess it was allowed.
Establishment needs to get this. The fact that it's illegal does not matter anymore.
Yeah. Laws are like not for everybody, but laws are done right now.
Yes, he can.
Well, that's the thing. Even with the big thing with his last speech on the White House lawn, they're all like, "This is a Hatch Act violation." I'm like, "Well, somebody call 911."
Yeah, I know. And that it has far more dangerous consequences than just whether or not he uses the White House as a prop.
Right.
It has to do with the Postal Service and dismantling election, whether it has to do with this newest thing with national intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And he's literally purging the government.
Right.
Of anyone except those whose deference is to his will, as opposed to serving the law of the United States. This is why we must deny him a second term.
What I fear, Marianne, is that I'm just like, we all see this happening, and I just fear that the Democrats, like, who is going to stop him? I fear that they are like too weak to stop him.
Well, I ran, and it was like watching a car crash in slow motion.
Yeah, the worry, we can all do our best, but there's a lot of worrisome stuff going on. Even with the post office, you're like, everybody notices this happening. All the senators are tweeting out like, he's doing this. And I'm like, can somebody please do something about it?
About that, because I have some confusion about that.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't there more that the Democrats could do?
You feel like they could, yeah. They're calling people for hearings, but you feel like they could do more.
Yeah. And it is true how the things that they choose to focus on, it is stunning. Like the Hatch Act, or the fact that Pompeo spoke at it in Jerusalem. It's like, do you honestly think a single Trump supporter or the unmotivated base, like, forget converting people?
Also, I'm sorry.
No.
Well, it's easy to counter also because they say, well, the RNC didn't, the RNC paid for that part or whatever.
Right.
But I don't see it as that much different than how ridiculously atonal it was to base their impeachment proceedings on Ukraine.
And this this narrow Hunter Biden focused impeachment.
Very legalistic.
That they never brought up. By the way, that was never brought up once at the whole DNC. They never said this is an impeached president. Right. They went through the impeachment, but we don't even ever say it.
They did not prosecute a case against him. If ever there was a prosecutable president.
Yeah.
They didn't go there because they don't want to offend John Kasich or Susan Whitman.
It was interesting because Bill Maher and I watched Bill Maher because my parents were watching him. I mean, I'll watch him. I think that he is good guests. I disagree with him a lot. I think some of the guests are terrible. But I love these two. I saw Thomas Frank and Reverend William Barber, and they were on, and it was really interesting because Bill Maher can be very bad on stuff and very dismissive. Yeah. And but he said, look, and he had Kasich on the same episode. So first he interviewed Kasich, and then he had Barber and Thomas Frank, and it was great watching Barber really mock Kasich for the kind of for the just austerity, when he was sociopath that he is,
Yeah.
But it was interesting to watch Bill Maher say, well, these Trump people, they're not changing. And so maybe they should have given AOC more time and Kasich less time. And it was just interesting seeing Bill Maher of all people, because he's the type who will call the squad scaring Americans and radical and woke. But it was interesting to see that even he kind of got that was a bad gamble.
Well, I would think that AOC herself would argue that it's not just her face. It's some progressive issues.
Oh, yes. He was.
You have Elizabeth on. They think, okay, well, we have Elizabeth on, so it's okay. We have Bernie on, it's okay. But Elizabeth can't really discuss anything that Elizabeth stood for. Bernie can't really discuss anything Bernie stood for.
Right.
Andrew can be on, but he can't talk about basic income. So
yeah.
Right.
They had Bernie back to back, with Kasich, basically. They basically had Kasich on to say Biden will never go left right before Bernie came on to say Biden will go left. I'm like, are you thinking that people don't watch this in full? Or
what they're doing? They're doing exactly what Hillary did.
This
to these people and this to these people. And when you're caught in that kind of people pleasing, you end up saying nothing.
Yeah.
And standing for nothing.
Yeah.
And people read you as disingenuous because you are. People like Trump because he says what he thinks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Republicans don't walk their talk, but Democrats don't talk their walk. And they don't talk their walk now because their walk isn't even
nothing to talk about, really.
Tonight's convention of the People's Convention. It's progressives we're politically homeless now.
Yeah, that's true. So what have you been working on? You have a new book out. And what are you doing? I mean, you were at this convention and you're very active. You had you were supporting progressive candidates.
Ballot candidates.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to have rotator cuff surgery about 3 weeks ago, and it has really knocked me for a loop. And I think so many people are going through life changes right now that are very profound. And it sure has radicalized me about Medicare for all, I'll tell you.
Oh, I bet.
Where would I be if I didn't have medical insurance with what I'm going through? And I'm going to start a podcast.
Oh, great.
Oh, good.
I'm going to start a podcast soon. And I have my book, Politics of Love, that will be coming out in paperback.
Yeah,
and
really great.
Kind of hoping when I can get sort of myself back to, I don't have on my sling right now, but I hope I'll be making a difference in whatever way I can. I said when I stopped my campaign, I committed to myself and others, I will do everything I can to be as inconvenient as possible. To be inconvenient. So I hope I'm carrying out that tradition on Twitter, if nothing else.
Yeah, no, definitely. And what I just wanted to, that's interesting what you said about being radicalized on Medicare for all. So can you kind of explain your evolution on that issue? where you are now. Yeah.
I felt that I was very proud of my healthcare plan because I called it the whole health plan. And it had a lot of concentration, not only on treating sickness, but on creating health. As I said on the debate stage, we need to ask ourselves, why do we have so much more chronic illness than they do in European countries, for instance? And that has to do with our food policies. It has to do with our chemical policies. And also because of the over-influence of big pharmaceutical companies on our actual medical education. Most doctors who graduated from medical school in the United States only took half a year of education in nutrition, for instance. If you visit somebody at the hospital, you'll notice what crappy food they are fed. So one of the things in my healthcare plan was, if you go to the doctor, it is mandated. You are guaranteed to be informed about any non-surgical or non-pharmaceutical treatments of that same condition, which have proven to be close, if not completely, equally efficacious. Those were the kinds of things we had. And I felt that by having a sliding scale that we could just slide into Medicaid, that it would be fine, and we didn't need specifically Medicare for all. Once this pandemic hit, though, I mean, that just went out the window for me. I just don't see how we can think about it any other way. So the pandemic just took me over, but then my having surgery myself, I just, it's like I said, taken me to a place of
I mean, you see these costs and everything. Like, interacting with the healthcare system, like you're saying, is a great way to become radicalized about the healthcare system.
Well, when you're sick, the last thing you need is all that red tape and paperwork. And I mean, I think that Americans, the level of chronic tension and anxiety economically, people don't know what will happen if they get sick. People don't know what will happen if their kids get sick. How am I going to send my kids to college? How am I ever going to get out of these college loans? No one can soar under those conditions. No one can soar. And that's why we have so many deaths by despair. It's once again, talking about that convention today, we don't need just incremental change. Something is so fundamentally off course.
Yeah, you're right.
And what else has the pandemic revealed to you? Like the way it's shifted your view on Medicare for all? Has it changed any other?
Well, look at the bailout. The bailout, first of all, the bailout is no different than the bailout of 2008. Thank you very much, which was under Obama, which was basically a corporate bailout. So to me, the template was already there. And what they're doing with this is just really 2008 on steroids. The idea that we're not giving direct cash relief. Remember, we already had 90 million people. 93 million people were living on near poverty even before this happened. We had 40% of Americans who could not absorb an unexpected $400 expenditure. Now what we have. Now, if you take a country like England, what they've done is to give people 80% of their salaries. That's the way you save your economy. You give direct cash relief. Like people like Ro Khanna and Tim Ryan have suggested. The fact that we had a $1,200 one-time payment that Mnuchin had the audacity to call bridge liquidity. How dare he? How dare he? How dare he? $1,200 bridge liquidity, and now they're on vacation. We millions, these evictions. It is a level of let them eat cake. That has never in history not led to revolutionary fervor.
Right. You sort of foment these conditions. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Especially that, the UI benefits were basically what was keeping the economy afloat, ahead of these, basically just the Fed printing money and buying stocks. Like, it actually helps the economy when people have money to spend.
The money, they spend it.
It's basic Keynesian economics. Yeah. You don't have to be radical.
Like universal health care. That's why things like free education at colleges and universities, that's why the eradication of these college loans, all it's going to do is free people up to be happy at work, to start businesses, to be good employees, to be creative, to create wealth and spend money, which really goes to show you it's not just a resistance to sharing money. It's a resistance to sharing power. Because when people are living above survival, which is basically where we've placed millions and millions and millions of Americans, they kind of do what they want and create what they want and make things happen. I think scares, even if it's only unconscious, that 1% of corporatocracy mentality than the sharing of cash. It's more than cash, it's power. That's really the fear here. And even that is an unconscious, I'm a Course in Miracles student, so I always see things through the filter of the sort of psycho-spiritual. Even that is a subconscious fear that people will do to them what they feel subconsciously they deserve.
What about, I don't know if you want to talk about this. I need to have someone on to talk about this, but I saw you were tweeting about Stephen Donziger.
Yes.
Can you share part of that?
Yeah, I'm not like an aficionado with it, but I'm more than glad to weigh in on it. He took on Chevron. He's a lawyer, and he took on Chevron. It's Ecuador, isn't it, Katie?
Yes.
And Chevron has come down on him so hard. He is everything that we want in a left-wing, muckraking lawyer. He's like something out like a Karen Silkwood. He's like the other movie.
Aaron Brockovich.
Aaron Brockovich. That's who he is. And Chevron decided we're coming after this guy. They are coming after him in ways that are absolutely horrifying. He's been under house arrest for a year. And the story is so macabre, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. And I'm so glad you brought it up. I think we need attention on it. Stephen Donziger, Donziger. And it's horrible what they're doing to this man's life.
Yeah, it really is. After denying me a jury, detaining me for a year, and letting a Chevron law firm prosecute me, the judge on my contempt case just removed my lead lawyer on the eve of trial. She chose another lawyer, denying my right to choose counsel. And he's a human rights lawyer, and
he's a great guy, and he took on Chevron and all these people that he's helped in Ecuador because of the horrors of the activity of Chevron at that there. I mean, this is hardcore, and they are coming after him. They are seeking to just chill any that they're using him obviously as an example of anybody who wants to think about taking them on in the future. And I know he's asking for contributions for his case as well.
Yeah, I just realized I should I'm gonna ask James North to come on because he wrote about it for The Nation. And what else are you doing to kind of like, I don't know, people, I have to admit, like, I didn't know about you from the world of outside of politics. So I just heard you talking. I was like, wow, I really like what this woman has to say. And then I was like, oh, this woman is a writer. She writes about these things that aren't related to politics. And then you do write about things, especially your latest book, that are. But it's so interesting that you have this whole other life. And I do feel like this time is a time where people are really like open to that in a way that they haven't been before, because things are so dire. Have you noticed a shift in that?
Yes, I have. But I've also noticed it, as long as it's a man saying it, there wasn't so much resistance to it. It's only when a woman's saying it.
Yeah,
about it being we were talking about Reverend Barber or Cory Booker, they can talk about it. But I think that the fascinating generation is the one that's underneath the millennials. Is it Generation Z?
The Zoomers,
yeah.
They were raised by mothers who read the kind of books I write.
Right.
And so they have this like openness that is hilarious, actually.
Yeah.
So the world is moving in that direction. You know, we have the 21st century is a very different mindset than the 20th, just like the 20th century was a very different mindset than the 19th. The 20th century mindset, very mechanistic. You know, it's Newtonian physics. The world is a machine, and if you want to change the world, you just tweak the pieces of the machine. This is the 21st century. Quantum physics has changed all that. And, you know, the idea that what I talk about is unscientific is ridiculous. Those people who are claiming to be such adherents of science are kind of talking about 20th century science. It's not really kept up with the science of today, where people like a British physicist who said, it turns out the world is not a big machine so much as it's one big thought. Yeah. So every area, you look at medicine, the whole idea of a holistic model is now mainstream. that you can't just treat what's happening on the external level. You have to treat the psychological issues and the emotional issues, because that's where root causes lie. So I think that's just the 21st century. Whether people conceptualize that in spiritual terms is almost irrelevant.
Right.
It's just the mindset. It's a modern mindset. Although I will say this also. When you look at the history of social justice movements in the United States, the abolitionist movement emerged from the early evangelicals in New Hampshire, as well as the Quakers. When you look at the history of the women's suffragette movement, how many of those women were Quakers? The civil rights movement came from the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. That was a Baptist preacher. There has never been a major social justice movement in the United States that did not arise from the voices of the heart and spirit and conscience that came from religious and spiritual circles. It's aberrational that right now somebody has to apologize. Now, what you have is someone like a Reverend Barber, for whom I have tremendous respect. But if it's, first of all, if it's a male, but also if it's within a traditional religious denomination,
right,
all kinds of respect. And if someone is speaking about it as a woman, from any more non-denominational perspective, then it became easy for those who wish me out off the stage. See, they get that woman off the stage, and turned it into, the ridiculous narrative about woo-woo and
I mean, I get it's the double thing, right? Because you're a woman, and then, as you said, it's not a firm, established like I don't even know what do you have a word for your?
Well, actually, I'm a Jew.
I know.
I'm a traditional. Anybody who reads my books, I'm not this New Age,
right?
That they think I'm actually. I talk about the universal basic themes of Judaism, of Christianity, of Buddhism. That's what my books are. My books are not. I'm not theologically non-traditional. I'm just ecumenical. There's a difference between ecumenical and non-traditional.
Right. But your spirituality is, and I know that you're Jewish, and I find that really fascinating, for various reasons we can get into, but, fellow Jew here, secular. But your spirituality is not, the way, for instance, with Barber, he's Christian. Like his orientation is Christian. You are Jewish, but your orientation is, it's spiritual, right? More than.
Well, this is the deal. My mother had a best friend named BJ. And every time, and BJ was a very conservative Christian lady. And every time somebody did something wonderful, BJ would say, "Oh, he's such a good Christian."
Right.
"Oh, she's such a good Christian." One day my mother just couldn't take it anymore. And she said, "BJ, what do you think makes a good Jew?"
Right.
I mean, there are universal spiritual themes at the heart of all the great religious systems. They are universal. What makes a good Christian, what makes a good Jew? We are here on this earth to love one another, to stand for justice, to stand for righteousness, to repair the breach between the perfect mind of God and the conditions of the world. So when you actually look at the nuggets of spiritual truth and mystical realization at the heart of all the great religious systems, the universal spiritual themes are what matter. And that's what I talk about in writing.
Right. No, I mean, obviously everyone from MLK to Heschel, they saw eye to eye precisely because of that.
Mm-hmm. And I think Reverend Barber would be the first.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Yes. I'm just saying I'm not, and I agree with you that I'm not defending the way people dismiss you at all. I'm just saying that they also don't know where to place it because you're not.
But we're living at such a time of such lack of journalistic ethics.
Right.
If you actually read my books, it wouldn't be so hard. But when you have people, even like Katrina, going on and on about what my books say and minimizing it, when clearly, Katrina, you didn't read my books. People use a tweet that somebody.
Sorry, which Katrina?
Source. So I don't think I'm actually. I've had a long career, and my experience is somebody might come hear me speak. And I might not be their cup of tea, not everyone's cup of tea, but people didn't leave my talks thinking I'm some crazy lady. They just might not have liked it that much, but I don't think anybody left thinking I'm a decent person.
Yeah. I'm just saying it's interesting because it's it's spiritual. And that is something that people are more and more, and and I've read your books, and I'm just saying from a kind of like categorization thing. I think people sometimes they know, okay, Barber is Christian. Heschel was Jewish. Gandhi, Hindu. And you are something that you have that same universalist orientation that those people have, but it's like spirituality.
You are giving people more credit than I don't think my opinion is that that's not what happens. My opinion is that a lot of people who go to yoga classes where they might hear my work quoted, who go to therapy and have their own therapist hand them one of my books, knew better. They knew better. They knew better. And they were part of the sort of political media industrial complex that decided it was time to kill her. She didn't belong on the stage. She's not one of us. So I don't think it would have been so hard to just treat me as a woman who writes books. I don't think it was so hard.
It was you're saying that it was like a way to minimize you, and it was intentional.
Yeah, and I'm not denying that. I guess I'm saying that there is some. It's like an extra step, but yes, that doesn't justify. Yeah, I guess that's my point. It's like, and it's an interesting challenge.
But I also felt on my campaign, I thought, what are we being told here? We're being told that only people whose careers have been entrenched for decades in the mindset that drove us into this ditch could possibly be considered qualified to lead us out of the ditch. I see it quite the opposite. The mindset that dominates Washington is almost a disqualifier for the kind of holistic understanding that I believe a president should have right now, that is necessary in order to create the real energetic space and intellectual understanding and psychological forces to take us through a very perilous time in our history and help us navigate across this terrible, terrible storm that we're in.
I also wanted to ask you about, speaking of your life and your work and healing and spirituality, how your experience with AIDS and HIV and the work that you did around that, how that kind of prepared or didn't prepare you for what we're dealing with now. I mean, obviously, this is a very different pandemic from AIDS and HIV. And a lot of people watching this probably don't really have the visceral sense of what people, I'm young. I mean, I was young, but I knew I had that sense of people just like kind of disappearing. Like, where'd that person go? And, you know, certain communities were hit so hard, but.
I'm sure I speak for everyone who was around at that time and who was at all involved with the AIDS crisis, that it was a totally life-changing event. It had some similarities to the coronavirus pandemic, except this one aspect was completely the opposite. Here, there's a sense that anyone could get it, but most people will survive. There, it was the exact opposite.
Oh, yeah.
It was not an easy disease to get, but if you got it, you were almost surely to die, because there was a long period of time, not that Western medicine wasn't trying, because it was, but there was quite a long period of time where they kept playing their cards and coming up empty. And also, it took the organized religious institutions quite a while to work through whatever their homophobia was or whatever, to get over their own silence on the issue. To be involved, and I was intimately involved, was heartbreaking. But this is another area where such opposite of truth about my own work, et cetera, was just stunningly on the table. But when you're going through a situation where everybody is dying all around you, where you are, we would have support groups like several times a week. And I never told people don't take your medicine. There was no medicine. That was the point. There was no medicine to take. What I said is, with loving each other, we're all going to get through this. Right. I don't think people can even imagine. We were all going to like 3 funerals a week.
Right.
And some of these guys who were dying, they were so young, so in their prime. Hollywood, I was living in New York. We started an organization called Center for Living, and then we did it in New York as well, giving non-medical support services to people with life-challenging illnesses. Hollywood was particularly stricken because obviously in the creative arts you have such a high disproportion gay people. Some of the great artistic geniuses of that generation were taken. So Hollywood had a tremendously open heart. And so we had this house where in Hollywood where we would give non-medical support because people were like, I thought, okay, they're having to go through this, but at least they don't have to go through it alone. So we rented this house and people would come there and we would have groups and people would give them Reiki and therapy and massage. People would touch them and we would feed them. And it was really beautiful because people had a place to go. They didn't have to just stay home. And then one day I went and I noticed that, let's say, Donald wasn't there. Where's Donald? And they'd say, oh, he couldn't come in today. He was too sick. And then the next day, John wasn't there. And I'd say, well, where's John? And they say, oh, he couldn't come in today. He was too sick. And then I'd say, where's Susan? She can't come in today. She's too sick. And I said, well, we'll have to take meals to them.
Right.
And then there were so many people like that. So then we started something called Project Angel Food, which was Meals on Wheels, delivering homemade meals to homebound people with AIDS. And today it has served 12 million people.
Wow.
12 million meals, 12 million meals in the Los Angeles area. So Los Angeles, something very, very, really opened its heart in a way that even today, to see how it continues to work for people who are homebound, whether they have, today it's less, thank God, less age-related, although that certainly is there, but also people with heart disease, et cetera. And now with the pandemic, you can only imagine how many people need that service.
Right. Yeah, I was always surprised that although not surprised, but that people didn't ask you about that, your experience working on that issue. It seems like
it turned into a complete opposite of what I did, that I had.
Right. They accuse you of being like anti-medicine. But also like, so either there was a distortion of what you did, or it just seems like that's a presidentially relevant thing. People are like.
Well, there was a time where no matter what you thought of Marianne Williamson, you had to give it to her on the AIDS issue.
Right.
But you know what? Too many people are alive today who weren't there then. Well, I'm not saying too many are alive. I'm glad.
Right. Yeah.
There are more.
People don't remember. And or somebody spins a false narrative, and then now it's on social media, and the next thing you know, she was telling gay people that they got their disease because they didn't love enough. And,
Yeah. Yeah, it was the beginning. It's the opening of which was I was reading a few of your books. I'm trying to remember which one. Was it A Politics of Love, where you have where you open talking about your experience working with?
I don't know. I don't know. Once I write them, I kind of.
I know. Yeah, but it was just very moving, and it was just about how. For so many people, it was like, you're like, you had a sentence, something about how for many men, it was like they were telling their parents for the first time, I'm gay and I'm dying. It was like in the same.
Yes. And I don't remember which book, it might've been Politics of Love, but that is a very important point of our history that many people don't realize now. This was in the 80s when a lot of people were closeted. And there were all these young men, and it's almost hard to believe now, but I can't tell you how many young men would be sharing, I have to call my parents. Telling them I'm dying is less scary to me than telling them I'm gay.
God. So sad.
So much transformation among the parents too. Whichever book that was, I told the story about Merle and his father.
Yeah. Can you share that story?
There was a man named Merle, and he was slightly built, and he used to volunteer at my lectures, and he worked at the book table. He contracted HIV, And he had his father was this big guy who looked like he'd been a football player, right? And the father started helping his son. Merle was his only child. And he started because Merle was getting sick. I don't know when Merle told his father he was sick. I don't know. But his father started coming and helping him with the boxes of books. And I started watching what was going on. Because Merle's father, clearly, this was a very, very alien environment to him. It was a bunch of gay guys, and we were young. I started my career when I was 31 years old. It was, gay, it was hip, it was cool. This was not Merle's father's church service.
Right.
And I watched him. I watched him realize where he was. I watched him take in what was happening. And I don't know exactly the point at which Merle told his father, but Merle would have had to have known because Merle was getting weaker and weaker and weaker. I never saw Merle's father behave homophobically, but I did see him obviously uncomfortable with where he was because it wasn't what he knew.
Sure.
Watching the whole process, all the way to the point of Merle's death, and his father at his bedside, surrounded by all these gay friends who were there not only supporting Merle, but supporting his father as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
And there were so many stories like that.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really moving. And I remember, the idea of, I think because the people I knew for various reasons, and they were older than me, but I'm talking about during this particular period of HIV/AIDS.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of them were out, so they didn't deal. While they had to deal with homophobia, it wasn't, but that idea of calling, telling your parents both that you were something that they didn't know, and the reason that this is coming up is because you're dying. Because of course back then this was a disease that was not.
Well, at first, yes, it was.
At first, yeah, right, yes.
But that also caused a tremendous change. That's when the Human Rights Campaign began, and so many of the changes in attitudes about gay people and coming out. Right. The gay liberation movement really emerged from that experience.
Yeah, ACT UP was, because Reagan did all that he could to not deal with it, right?
Mm-hmm. Later he admitted that he was wrong on that, and then of course George Bush was very good on AIDS funding.
Yeah,
go figure.
Yeah, I don't know. That was
such a sad time. I grew up here in LA. I was very young, so I didn't know much about it. But we had a family friend who passed. It just was almost just anyone you knew. It was such a horrendous epidemic that happened.
Yeah,
it was indeed heartbreaking.
Yeah. Well, any other final? We have a lot of people ask questions for you. Have questions for you.
At me if you want to.
Yeah. Someone wants to know your biggest influences, the biggest influences on you.
Well, I grew up, you're talking about being young and having an experience. I was 11 years old when JFK died. That was in 1963. And then in 1968, Martin Luther King, Bobby Kennedy, 16-year-olds know a lot. So those incidents of the 60s and 70s that was my generation. So that whole period, it deeply influenced me. Bobby, Martin Luther King. And then of course, what happened, when I was in college, you read Ram Dass and Alan Watts in the morning, and you went to a Vietnam War protest in the afternoon. The revolution of that time was everything. It was cultural, it was sexual, it was musical, and it was political, and it was spiritual. So you didn't have these lanes and categories that you had to stay in. After the assassinations, which were, we looked to people like Bobby and Martin. They were our heroes. We were young and they were adults and they were in politics and they were holding aloft all these profound philosophical aspirations and within political terms. They were literally shot and killed in front of our eyes. And the bullets that shot them psychically shot all of us. And there was a very loud unspoken message with those assassinations. And just in case we hadn't gotten it, they killed the kids at Kent State to make sure the message really was driven home. Mm-hmm. And the message was, you will leave the public sector alone. You can do whatever you want in the private sector, but the public sector will now go to those, whoever they are, who are willing to kill in order to control it. Mm-hmm. And you can do whatever you want in the private sector. You can have so much choice. It'll be amazing. You can have the blue one. You can have the red one. You can have the yellow one. You can have the green one, but stay out of the public sphere. And we did as we were told. And also the spiritual and the traditional political divided at that time. I always jokingly say that the spiritual types took the West Coast and the traditional political types took the East Coast. They became two completely different areas, and they had mutual disdain for each other.
Yeah.
The spiritual types looked at the traditional political types like with rolled eyes. They don't understand cause. And the traditional political types looked at the consciousness and spiritual types like we didn't understand the world. And they were both wrong. And I believe today, you've got a tremendous social potential. You've got younger people in America today, who have the same audacity, the same chutzpah, the same regenerative quality that every youthful generation has. But you also have an older generation of people like myself, for whom the idea that, as my father would say, the bastards got to us, mm-hmm. for whom the idea that we might die, and on our dying day, no, we didn't get around to doing what we came here to do. Mm-hmm. It's actually scarier than the thought that they might kill us if we do. Yeah. So it's not so much, and of course, on a purely spiritual level, what I received from reading The Course in Miracles, which is not a religion, but it's a psychological mind train based on these universal spiritual themes. Then reading Gandhi, reading Martin Luther King, which is what I studied so deeply, along with American history, in order to write my book, Healing the Soul of America. Because in the late 90s, my book, Healing the Soul of America, was talking about the corporatocracy, was talking about mass incarceration. Everybody was saying how good things were. And I was saying, well, doesn't that depend on what neighborhood you're in? Doesn't that depend on the world? So it's more the history that has influenced me, rather than specific characters in the history.
And what about your parents?
Oh, my father was amazing. My father was like a cross between William Kunstler and Zorba the Greek. My father and
big eyebrows. Then
what did you say?
Gonna have big eyebrows.
I tell you, I came to. We were at dinner, and I was in the 7th grade, and I said, "Well, my social studies teacher says we have to fight in Vietnam," and my parents glare at me. And I said, because she said, if we're not fighting in Vietnam, we're going to fight one day on the shores of Hawaii. It was called the Domino Theory. Right. My father jumped up, and I swear, you know what he said? Sweetheart, which is what he called my mother, get the visas. We're going to Vietnam. Those bastards are not going to eat my children's brains. That goddamn military industrial complex. And my mother, this was my mother, oh, Sam. And she got the visas, and we all went to Saigon. And he takes us to Saigon, and he shows us bullet hole. Who put these bullet holes here, kids? The U.S. government, goddamn U.S. government. Who's going to win this war? And why are we going to lose it? Damn right we're going to lose it because God's not on our side. And don't forget that, kid. That was my father. Yeah. I didn't stand a chance. And my mother used to always say, oh, Sam, what's going to happen? What are the kids going to turn out like? And I said something to my mother once, years later. I said, Mommy, you kept saying, we weren't going to turn out okay because of Daddy. And she said, well, I was right. But he was an immigration lawyer.
Right.
He was a very well-known immigration lawyer. His parents were both born. In fact, all the stuff going on in Minsk and Pinsk is where my grandparents came from. And
my mom's side.
The plight of the immigrant was a very profound part of my growing up because of my father's. And my brother is an immigration lawyer. So
oh, wow.
I'm from left-wing lawyers. Yeah.
And you grew up in Texas, Houston, yeah.
Yeah, and when I started my career, and my father was at first not understanding what I was doing, and he said, "Well, I raised you to wage the revolution. What are you doing?" And I said, I feel I am, Daddy. I think love is the greatest revolution." And he got it. He used to listen to my tapes before he died. So
wow,
I think all is well.
And where were they from? Your dad and your mom?
My father was born in Hamtramck, Michigan, near Detroit, and raised in Rock Island, Illinois. My mother came from Houston.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
and both Jewish?
Oh yeah.
And Orthodox, right? Were you raised?
No, conservative.
Conservative, right, yes.
Conservative politics.
No, right, conservative, right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's really fascinating.
Marianne, I wanted to show you this this painting that my wife did of you during the election. My wife did a watercolor that she wanted me to show you.
Oh my goodness! Did she do all the candidates?
No, she just did. People requested that she do one of you, and she did one of Bernie, I think, too. But I think just you and Bernie.
Well, thank you for showing it to me. I love all the.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, she was really excited about that we were having.
She got very excited. She came in, before the show and was like excited that I was going to be talking to you.
You're in Los Angeles?
Yeah, we're here in LA. Yeah.
And Katie, you're where?
I'm usually in New York City, but I'm a couple hours, like 2 hours outside the city. I've been here since March. I haven't been back once.
Yeah, I remember.
But and Jack has a really great podcast he does with Leslie Lee, another friend of the show. They're both great, and it's on politics. Oh, mostly it's like pop culture, I guess, and politics, the intersection. And Jack also has his own show on Twitch, Jack AM.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, I had some more questions. Do you have a couple more minutes, Marianne? Okay, great. Thank you so much, by the way, for your time. I'm really, especially in your post-op, like you must be exhausted.
Yeah.
It's exhausting. It's just debilitating,
Yeah. And you just did that. People were raving about your
thank you.
Your People's Convention. Okay, so let's see. So Caucasian Colin writes, Marianne, I am an R, I guess Republican. And let me say that I'm shocked how your party mocked you for being too spiritual. Then the DNC was all feel good crap. Okay.
The Biden tweets about we need to get rid of the darkness and bring in the light. I'm like, they're plagiarizing.
I know, they're so plagiarizing. Yeah, it's so funny.
I just hope he reads the book.
Yeah.
The book is nice, but the book is about the policies that align all that love.
Yeah, you tweeted some stuff about that. Where was it? I think I retweeted it. But let's see. Sorry, I took screenshots. So okay. Bojack Productions says, Marianne, I love you so much. Who else? Louise Brooks said, I'm sending so much love to Marianne. Yes.
Thank you.
DNC, Sparky writes, DNC had awesome Tulsi and Marianne, but chose Biden. Let's see. Oh, Sparky also writes, my great uncle born in 1898, when he found a girl attractive, he'd say, she's a fine Christian woman. Sparky said, you're also, Marianne is real purty. Greatest influences, I asked that question. And yeah. So, and let me just see if there are any more questions on Twitter, because lots of people, are upset that you were treated unfairly.
Do you have any opinions on cloudy versus clear ice, like drinking ice?
No, I have no opinions on that.
Okay. Clear is supposed to be better, they say.
I would think so. This business about the knee-jerk mockery of anybody coming from a religious perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where it came from. I mean, when I was growing up, JFK had said we cannot afford to be materially rich and spiritually poor.
Right.
It was Bobby Kennedy who said it's a contest for the soul of a nation. This movement into this overly secularized conversation that now dominates the left. This was not what I grew up with, because what I grew up with, the Democratic Party was very juicy, and it had no problem. Democrats had no problem speaking very soulful terms. But I think it's been politically devastating, this over-secularized prejudice, because people are hardwired for connection to tribe and to higher power. And if you do not, and when the Democrats and the left became so dismissive, it's like they're too cool to talk about morality. They're too cool to talk about God. They're too cool to talk about patriotism. That's really unfortunate, because if you do not provide people with the genuine thing, they are vulnerable to propaganda by the ersatz counterfeit version. And so when Democrats just abdicated religion, spirituality, patriotism, morality, traditionally, the right side of the political spectrum has always been more focused on issues of personal morality. But traditionally, the left was focused on issues of public morality. Economic injustice is immoral. Invading a country that did nothing to you is immoral. Denying healthcare to millions and millions of people just because so that health insurance companies can make more money is immoral. Private prisons where people are making money off the suffering of others and actually lobbying for people to get harsher sentences so they can make more money is immoral. And I believe you've lost millions and millions of Americans who the Republicans have had an easy time convincing that Democrats don't stand for moral principles. And when so many people who've tried to speak about moral principles within the current climate of the left are so easily mocked, it has not served the left at all.
Yeah. Someone also asked what you would have done differently about your campaign, knowing what you know now.
It's interesting. 3 days after the second debate, I was on CNN with Anderson Cooper. And I had been the most Googled person in 49 states, et cetera. So clearly someone said, get her off the stage. And it was funny because when I went into the spin room afterwards, some of the people I've always seen as my sort of heroes on left-wing media looked at me like, you're dead. You're dead. You're not going to be hanging around here. 3 days later, I'm on Anderson Cooper. And he clearly took me on. Here's his show, which has such a preponderance of big pharmaceutical companies advertising. They had picked on something I had said. I never said anything about vaccines. What I said was something about mandatories, which was sloppy the way I questioned mandatories. But I never said anything anti-vax. I talked about safe vax. But if you talk about safety in vax, they say, oh, that's what anti-vax people say, et cetera. And also I had made a comment. You have attorneys general all over this country who are now indicting pharmaceutical executives. Purdue had to pay billions. They're indicting these pharmaceutical executives for their known predatory behavior regarding opioids. So I think it is totally naive and ridiculous to assume that in every other area, big pharmaceutical companies are pure as the driven snow. But Democrats are to big pharma the way Republicans are to the NRA. You cannot question them. So Anderson Cooper takes off. It was an ambush. What I regret is that I didn't take him on. I wasn't prepared for it. Right. And I thought to myself, in your defenselessness, your safety lies. Who I've learned from? I've learned from AOC. When they come at her, she answers back. And so when people said all these horrible things about me, I was, I believe, ill-advised, not speak to it, because that would bring attention to it, which was ridiculous because attention was being brought to it. I wish every time somebody wrote one of those articles about me, I wish I'd gotten on Facebook, read the article, given it right back to them, talked about what a lie it was. So that's what I learned. I learned if you're in that hot kitchen, you better, and I understand, somebody said something along the line, I don't know exactly what they said, but it made me think, well, if I can't take on Anderson Cooper, why would somebody think I could take on Vladimir Putin? So I get that. So that's what I learned, that you not only need to be tough enough to handle it, but you need a campaign also that's tough enough on your behalf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Well, this was amazing. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, I think it's great, Katie and Jack. It's so nice to meet you.
Yeah, really nice to meet you. Really good to see you.
Guys.
Yeah, and also I've said this before, but the Virgil Texas from Chapo did like such a great interview with Marianne, and really like was the first person I heard take you seriously politically. Like, I mean, I knew people who supported you, obviously, but I mean, like a podcast, it was like really cool to hear your conversation.
Well, Katie, I'm old enough that I have some institutional memories. So when these kids start talking Marx to me, and then they're all shocked that I answer back in Marxist terms. Wants to. These people didn't just discover Marx. When I was in college, that's what we read too. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's not the first time around that people are reading that,
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. I would love to talk. We have to talk about that again, the Marx stuff, because it's so interesting. And thank you so much. And everyone follow Marianne, read her books. They're really good. And I think that, they speak to people who are both, who care about politics, and which is obviously this audience, but it's a really I don't know. I think people, again, are being more and more open to this. What did people say? Remember, put her books over. What does that mean? Over? Is that like a term?
I don't know. Maybe
I don't know.
I'll put them over.
Political books are Healing the Soul of America and The Politics of Love.
Yeah. Healing the Soul of America and The Politics of Love. Yes. And also I'm just more open to everything now too. So I like the other books.
I heard Jimmy Dore the other day doing a riff on Carl Jung.
Yeah.
The world is changing.
I know. It's funny. He came, I know. It's really, he came, but Thomas Frank, I didn't realize this, that Carl Jung had said really terrible stuff about FDR, making him sound like a violent populist. Yeah.
You're kidding.
I mean, populist. He was one of the people anyway, Thomas Frank's book is all about anti-populism. So he's one of the people who basically was like, he said terrible things about FDR. I know Jimmy's very spiritual. In fact, you and me and Jimmy should all talk together. You can guide me and Jimmy, because we got into a little fight.
Friday night. I'm on his show, I think, Friday night.
Oh yeah, great.
Maybe I'll bomb in or something.
Yeah. But he's definitely into that stuff, and it's very funny. And we had a thing, and he was talking about spirituality, and of course we had a not too spiritual exchange, which is fine, and we've resolved it. But it was just a funny. I teased him. I said I was going to make a mashup of his talking about spirituality with his getting a little bit angry. But yeah, that's great. I'll definitely watch you. And make sure, follow her on Twitter, follow Jack on Twitter, watch his show, support Patreon, the Patreon at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Again, that's patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. And I think that's it. And have a great night and stay safe. And I will see you Wednesday.
Thank you.
Okay. And thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
God bless everyone. Thank you. Bye.
So nice to meet you. Good to talk to you. Are we live still? Or are we
live? I'm gonna
good.
Any last
all right.
word?
Well, thanks for watching, ceverybody. That was a lot of fun. Really good to chat with Marianne. Yeah, that was awesome.
Great. Yeah.
See you later then, everyone. Later, Katie.
Thanks. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.